In Phoenix, Arizona, the desert heat carries with it both beauty and menace. By day, the sun burns everything it touches. By night, shadows stretch long across abandoned lots, and the city's neon lights seem to hide more than they reveal. It was in this city that Darius Kellan, a man with an easy smile and an unassuming presence, built his dark hunting ground. On dating apps, he looked ordinary, sometimes even charming. His profile was filled with photos of casual hikes, quiet coffee shops, and the occasional book recommendation. To anyone scrolling, he seemed harmless. But behind that curated persona was a man whose desires had curdled into something violent and predatory. The first known victim was Evan Rhodes, a 52-year-old teacher who lived in the suburb of Glendale. Evan was quiet, dependable, and rarely missed work. His colleagues described him as the type of man you could trust with your house keys. On a warm evening in July 2021, Evan told a friend he was meeting someone new from an app. He didn't give details. He just seemed excited. That was the last time anyone heard from him. When Evan's car was discovered a week later in a downtown Phoenix parking lot, stripped of personal items, alarm bells rang. Soon after, hikers in the rugged desert foothills found a shallow grave. Inside lay Evan's remains. Police now had a body, but no suspect. His phone, his wallet, his watch, all gone. Investigators would later learn the last person Evan messaged was a man calling himself DK Phoenix on a dating app. The initials, DK, would eventually haunt detectives for years. 2 years later, in August 2023, another man disappeared. Luis Navarro, 54, was a small business owner who ran a landscaping company. He was known for his laugh, for the way he threw neighborhood barbecues, and for his devotion to his family. On the evening of August 17th, Luis told his sister that he had a date. He said it was with someone new, someone exciting. His tone was casual, but his sister noticed he seemed unusually secretive about the details. Days passed and Luis never returned. His truck was found parked inside a quiet residential garage, one that did not belong to him. Inside that same garage, investigators later uncovered chilling evidence. Ropes, duct tape, and a baseball bat stained with something dark. It was the first tangible thread linking Luis to a larger nightmare. But Luis himself? His body was never found. To this day, his family lives with the gnawing wound of uncertainty, hoping, but knowing the truth deep down. The name on his dating app history was familiar. Once again, the handle DK Phoenix appeared. Detectives began to piece together a disturbing pattern. A man with a carefully curated online profile. Victims who seemed respectable, grounded, and trusting. Disappearances that led to stolen vehicles, missing possessions, and in one case, a shallow grave. Still, without hard evidence, the case stalled. That is, until one night in February 2025, when Darius Kellan made a mistake. On February 22nd, 2025, a 36-year-old man named Adrian Cole agreed to meet someone from a dating app. Adrian was cautious by nature. A software engineer, he lived alone in a quiet apartment near downtown Phoenix. His friends described him as shy but adventurous, someone who rarely stepped out of his comfort zone, but when he did so with trust. The man he planned to meet that evening went by the name Daniel on the app. His profile photo showed a friendly smile, a baseball cap, and a dog in the background. Daniel's messages were witty, warm, and disarming. They agreed to meet at Daniel's home. The house sat at the end of a cul-de-sac. Neighbors rarely saw the tenant. Blinds were always drawn. Adrian parked his car, hesitated for a moment, then walked up the driveway. First, everything seemed normal. Daniel, invited him in with an easy smile, offering a drink. But within minutes, Adrian sensed something was off. The air inside smelled faintly of bleach. A baseball bat leaned against the wall in the corner of the living room. And then, before he could react, the attack began. Darius lunged, binding Adrian's wrists with duct tape, striking him with the bat when he resisted. Adrian collapsed, stunned but conscious. His wallet was snatched, his phone tossed aside. It should have ended there. Another victim silenced. Another life erased, but Adrian fought back. Summoning every ounce of strength, he tore free from the tape, shoved Darius aside, and sprinted out the door. Blood streamed down his temple where the bat had struck him. He ran into the street, screaming for help. Darius didn't let him go easily. He jumped into Adrian's own car, keys left behind in the struggle, and pursued him. Tires screeched against asphalt. Adrian darted across the road, but the car clipped him hard, breaking his leg and sending him sprawling. Neighbors heard the crash. Lights flicked on. Doors opened. Sirens soon followed. For the first time, a victim survived Darius Kellan's trap. Police arrested Darius at the scene. He offered no resistance, only silence. His calm demeanor unsettled the officers. It was as though he had rehearsed for this moment. Adrian, though badly injured, gave a chilling statement from his hospital bed. He described the duct tape, the bat, the way Darius had looked at him, not with anger, but with an eerie, detached amusement. Detectives began digging into Darius's background. They discovered a man with a string of burglary convictions, a history of probation violations, and a trail of suspicious behavior. He lived alone, often unemployed, drifting between odd jobs. But what gripped investigators most was his digital footprint. On the dating app, his profile under the alias Daniel was just one of many. Dozens of accounts, all with slightly different names and pictures, but the same messaging style. Casual, disarming, persuasive. And buried in his phone's data were conversations with men who had since vanished. Names like Evan Rhodes, names like Luis Navarro. The puzzle pieces were finally clicking into place. Detectives revisited Evan Rhodes' shallow grave from 2021. They combed through Luis Navarro's truck, abandoned in that eerie garage. Every thread now pointed back to Darius. In Darius's own garage, investigators made the most damning discoveries yet. Evan's wristwatch hidden inside a toolbox. Luis's business card, stained and crumpled, tucked into an old notebook. Adrian's stolen wallet still containing cash. And then there was the digital trail. Each victim's final communications linked to one of Darius's many dating profiles. The illusion of Daniel, DK Phoenix, and other online aliases shattered, leaving only one reality. Darius Kellan was a predator who hunted in the digital shadows. Prosecutors prepared to charge him with a staggering list of crimes. 2 counts of murder, Evan and Luis. 1 count of attempted murder, Adrian. 2 counts of carjacking. 1 count of assault with a deadly weapon. Multiple counts of burglary. For the first time, the city of Phoenix glimpsed the scale of his violence. But as his trial loomed, one haunting question remained. Were there more victims yet to be uncovered? By September 2025, the case of State of Arizona versus Darius Kellan gripped the entire region. News anchors described it as the most disturbing string of digital-age murders in state history. Every morning, the courtroom filled with reporters, families of victims, and curious spectators. The man at the center of it all, Darius Kellan, sat expressionless, dressed in a plain gray suit, his hands folded neatly in front of him. Prosecutors painted him as a methodical predator who weaponized technology. He lured men with charm and promises of connection. He gained their trust just long enough to isolate them. Then he struck, sometimes killing swiftly, sometimes prolonging the ordeal. The jury listened to testimony from digital forensics experts, homicide detectives, and, most powerfully, from Adrian Cole, the survivor. From the witness stand, his voice trembled as he recalled the night of the attack. When I looked into his eyes, I didn't see anger. I saw emptiness, like he was watching me the way someone watches a bug they're about to crush. Gasps rippled through the courtroom. The defense argued desperation, claiming Darius was motivated by robbery and financial stress, not malice. But prosecutors countered with evidence that pointed to something far darker: enjoyment in the hunt itself. Piece by piece, the prosecution laid out the case. Evan Rhodes' wristwatch was presented in court, still stained with traces of soil from the desert grave. Luis Navarro's business card, found in Darius's garage, was revealed under the harsh glow of the overhead projector. And perhaps most damning, The dating app logs showing how Darius juggled multiple aliases, maintaining conversations with men across the city, each message laced with subtle manipulation. Then came the digital journal. Hidden deep within his computer was a file labeled Reflections. Inside were fragmented notes, almost like diary entries. Lines such as, "They never see me coming. Control is the purest feeling. Every smile I fake is another mask I wear." The courtroom fell silent as the words were read aloud. Some jurors shifted uncomfortably in their seats. Others stared at Darius, who remained calm, almost detached, as though the entries didn't belong to him. But the evidence was irrefutable. To understand Darius Kellan, prosecutors called on a criminal psychologist, Dr. Marissa Hall, who had interviewed him after his arrest. Her assessment was chilling. She described Darius as a man with narcissistic traits, antisocial tendencies, and a craving for dominance. He viewed his victims not as people, but as opportunities, pawns in a twisted game. Mr. Kellan is not simply a thief or a man desperate for money, Dr. Hall testified. He is an individual who found pleasure in deception, in control, and in violence. His actions suggest not just planning, but a deep psychological drive to manipulate and destroy. The jury listened intently. The picture that emerged was not of a man who killed in the heat of the moment, but of a predator who engineered his crimes. For the families of Evan and Luis, the testimony was both validating and unbearable. Some wept openly in court. And for Adrian, the survivor, it meant reliving the horror again and again, yet also ensuring the truth was heard. By the close of Part 3 of the trial, one thing was clear. Darius Kellan's mask had been ripped away. What remained was the face of a man who stalked in the digital dark, feeding on trust, feeding on fear. But the ultimate question still hung heavy. Would justice be enough to contain him? After 6 weeks of testimony, the jury retired to deliberate. The courtroom emptied into buzzing hallways, reporters rushing to file updates, families huddling in silence. For 2 days, tension thickened in Phoenix. Everyone waited. Everyone wondered. When the jurors finally returned, the air inside the courtroom was suffocating. The foreperson stood, voice steady but grave, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Evan Rhodes, guilty of first-degree murder in the presumed death of Luis Navarro, guilty of attempted murder in the attack on Adrian Cole, guilty of carjacking, burglary, and assault with a deadly weapon. Each word echoed like a hammer blow. Families clutched each other's hands. Some wept with relief, others in sorrow. For the first time since his arrest, Darius shifted in his chair. His lips curled into something faintly resembling a smirk. It wasn't remorse. It wasn't fear. It was as if he was daring the system to contain him. During sentencing, the prosecution urged the court to impose the maximum penalty, life without parole, citing the calculated nature of the crimes and the danger he posed to society. The defense pleaded for leniency, painting Darius as a man lost in cycles of poverty, abuse, and addiction. But their words barely registered against the mountain of evidence. When Judge Elaine Porter delivered the sentence, her tone was cold, deliberate. "Mr. Kellan, you preyed on trust. You weaponized kindness. You treated human lives as disposable. The court sentences you to life in state prison, without the possibility of parole." Gasps filled the courtroom. Some family members of victims nodded, others sobbed. Adrian Cole, on crutches, sat quietly in the back. For him, survival had come at a cost he would carry forever. But as the words "life without parole" rang out, he finally exhaled, a release years in the making. In the weeks that followed, Phoenix struggled to process the nightmare. Local news stations ran endless coverage of the case. Talk shows debated the dangers of online dating apps. Safety organizations launched awareness campaigns, urging caution when meeting strangers. For Evan Rhodes' family, there was closure but never peace. They buried him in a quiet ceremony, far from the desert where he had been discarded. His sister described him simply as a gentle soul who trusted too easily. For Luis Navarro's family, the pain lingered unresolved. His body had never been found. His sister spoke through tears at a memorial service. We light a candle for Luis every night. Until he comes home, in some way he's still missing. And for Adrian Cole, life became a balancing act between trauma and survival. He worked through therapy, nightmares, and the haunting image of Darius's face. The face of a man who had looked at him like prey. As for Darius Kellan, he vanished behind the walls of a maximum security prison. Yet the legend of his crimes lived on, whispered in warnings, shared in headlines, and remembered in the hearts of those forever changed. Because in the end, the silent trap wasn't just about one man's evil. It was about the fragility of trust in a world where predators wear masks, and how one click, one meeting, one false smile can alter the course of countless lives. Even as the years pass, the case of Darius Kellan stands as a modern parable. It is the story of how technology, designed to connect, can also conceal. It is the story of how predators adapt, evolve, and exploit loneliness. And it is the story of how justice, though slow, can still find its way through the dark. For those who scroll late at night, seeking companionship in the glow of their phones, the memory of Darius Kellan serves as a chilling reminder. Not every smile is safe. Not every connection is real.